Let's talk about depth perception. Depth perception, or stereopsis, is the ability you need, in order to see well, you need two eyeballs looking at the same spot, and each eyeball sees well. So if you have poor corrected vision in one eye and the other eye, they may be linked together, but if they don't see clearly, you're going to have poor depth perception. There are monocular cues where the little tree in the foreground versus the mountain in the background, you can kind of tell by parallax depth. Even with one eye, you go, yeah, that's in front of the other thing. So we're trying to separate out the monocular cues of shading and color and relative size to who has camera 1 and camera 2 seeing clearly linked together. So in the distance, we want to, camera 1 and camera 2 are pointing out to infinity, but as soon as we start coming up close, our eyes come together, they converge, and you should be superimposing two good visual fields. We have what's called Panem's fusional areas. So eyeball 1, there's kind of this ellipse. Eyeball 1 has this ellipse, and eyeball 2 has an ellipse, and they fuse. This overlap that happens. And somebody with no depth perception, their eyeballs are crossed. Okay, when one eyeball sees out here or there and wherever they might be. Well, if these two don't sync up together, they don't cross over at all, you're not going to have any depth perception. But if you have a little bit, crossing over because you have sort of a problem, or you have an acuity issue, a cataract in one eye and not in the other eye, or whatever it might be, a corneal disease in one eye and not the other, you'll have partial depth perception. A lot of these farsighted people, the kids with people with thick glasses, they typically have poor depth perception. And then if you have a strabismus, where your eyes are supposed to be fused together, if one eye points in or out or up or down and they don't come together, you're going to have poor depth perception. So we want to go find out what that is. People are going to put on the glasses that we have here, and then they're going to look at, with a child working their way on up, a child is going to have, you can say, hey, can you pinch these flies' wings because they're floating in 3D? And that's a good way to start with a child. And you go, okay, that's gross depth perception. That's reported as gross depth perception. And because if somebody can't see this at all, then they're sure as heck not going to be able to do these. So this is the easiest thing to do, and we only do this usually on their 4 to 5 year old kids who can't comprehend this so well. We have this second easiest thing to do, and we do it if we have to, is one of these animals here is floating in 3D, and we'll say, yeah, it's kind of floating in 3D, sticking out of the page, and so they'll identify which one of these is different or sticking out of the page. What we do classically most of the time is we go through these circles, and there's 1, 2, 3 through 9 of these things. And the simple way to do this, again, glasses on, both best correction. They have their eyeglasses on if they're wearing them, or contacts, and they have the black glasses on top of those eyeglasses should they need them. And I'll sit here and say, number 1, top, bottom, left, or right. Which circle's sticking out of the page? And they're not allowed to touch with their grimy fingers because it'll dirty up the book for everybody else. Every once in a while, I'll let a little kid touch because they don't know the rights from the lefts, and that's okay. Don't ever touch the color vision book because the oils will ruin the page. But on depth perception, you can touch, but we're trying to avoid that. So they'll go, and this one will be bottom, and this one will be left. And sometimes they have trouble getting this, and so they're not allowed. They have 5 seconds to identify which circle is sticking out of the page or is different. Sometimes they have trouble comprehending it, and you can coach them through that. If you think they're doing well, and make life simple. The goal is to find out the best they can see. The goal isn't to go through every one of these. So if they end up seeing 9, I'll go 1, 4, 7, 8, 9. And so tell me which one, top, bottom, left, or right, is sticking out of the page a little bit. They have 5 seconds. They can't move this around. They can't do this. It's about 40 centimeters away is where the test is done. and you'll document that there's 40 seconds or 50 seconds of acuity with or without correction. So this is depth perception. It's showing you how well your two eyes work together, and it requires good right eye, good left eye, looking at the same spot, and with good acuity. And that's how we check depth perception. As a note here, we have a little cheat sheet that we put on the back here. So if you get test number 1 right, you have 400 seconds of acuity. If you get number 9 right, and the answer is it's on the right, the left, the top, the bottom, there's your answers, and you have 40 seconds. So you'll know after doing this a little bit as to which circle is floating on the page. You should be able to see it yourself with your virgin eyes without the glasses on. But you record it 40 and then like a second's like a little quote, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, 60, 100 up to 400. Or you have, if they don't get any of them, they have no depth perception.